Hello, welcome to Kritfayle, and I am hanging out at my local gym at the moment. So I thought I'd do a quick vid of some of the stuff that we're going to be looking at in 2020 and some of the things that we are hoping to do. And if you've never been here before, welcome, I am Ghost. So we do a lot of role-playing and miniatures and the occasional science fiction sort of kits, the Bandais, and some of the Hasegawa Macross stuff, things like that. But we're also looking at hearing from you guys and seeing what you sort of want to get more reviews and that on. I was doing some Reaper stuff before. I haven't done a lot lately, but more recently there's been more comments and more interest and questions asked about the Reaper stuff, so we might start adding some of those. So if there is something from Reaper that you want to see a review on, or if you're wondering if it's worth buying or if there's anything wrong with it, throw it in the comments section here and we might actually have it in our stash already. So yeah, let's see what we have in store for 2020.
With Reaper Minis, I've had an on-again, off-again relationship. In the early days, they were very old-fashioned in retro sculpts. I didn't dig them, but that was merely a stylistic dislike and nothing wrong with the minis themselves. The Bones line was great for the table, but the detail I felt got worse over time. There was some cool concepts that was let down by the soft detail. And at the time they were the only game in town in the $2.95 kind of price zone. That was until WizKids came along and I was pretty impressed with some of their early stuff. I think they might have hurt Reaper a bit. That competition though is a good thing. Right now I've had to do several of the newer WizKid figures for a commission and they are utter rubbish. Massive mould line, soft detail, it's just not cool. In contrast, I have 3 Bones Black and 2 regular Bones in the newer grey material, and that isn't part of the black line. The detail is much better than they used to be. They have been upping their game for sure. Right now, if you're looking for cheap, decent minis for your table, then I would say look at Reaper Black, the grey Bones or their metal line. I was very happy when Bandai got the license to do Star Wars kits. They have had, for the most part, not disappointed. There have been a couple of missteps along the way, but for the most part they are amazing builds. They have been a little quiet last year with variations of existing kits, more than new ones, but hopefully that will be changing soon. I'm not sure what ones I will hit this year, but there are some really interesting choices. The Millennium Falcon is very cool, as is the AT-AT. I might do a ship and a figure. The figures are excellent in detail and options. One range I am very happy with is the Doctor Who line. I have been a fan of the shows since a kid, and I like Warlord games. The minis they are producing are for the most part top rate. They do need to mix up poses a bit, and I like the villains as the companions tend to be wearing normal clothing. That just isn't as fun to paint. But the likeness and detail on some of them are amazing, and this year I'll be doing the 1st, 4th and 5th Doctors, as well as the Movellans, who are a much underused villain. I might also get to the Ogrons and the Girl Who Lived. It's a great line of minis and I'm looking forward to seeing what new releases they have coming out. There will be a mix of other miniatures as I get to them from an assortment of companies. There is Ouroboros, which is one of my favourite companies out there. They do fantasy and sci-fi, mostly busts, but every now and again there are some smaller full-figure miniatures. I did the Hassle-Free miniature Kickstarter the other year and have slowly been working through those. Hassle-Free do decent figs that are competitively priced. I'll also be getting to some Scale 75 fantasy and sci-fi. Hopefully some of the Privateer Press Legends of the Five Rings figures as well. The L5R figs are very nice, but Privateer Press seems to be a bit of a mess as a company, especially where communication and reliability is concerned. I will also be reviewing and painting some of the Star Wars Legion line of figures. These figures are a hands-down improvement over some of the woeful Imperial Assault ones. While they are not perfect and do not hold the same level of detail as some of the other miniatures available, some of the newer releases are quite good, and they are starting to add some lesser characters and new characters into the lineup, especially on the Rebel side of things, which is pretty cool to see. It adds a nice flavour to the miniatures and it keeps it interesting. Time permitting, I am hoping to get to 1 or more Hasegawa Macross jets this year, as well as the Batmobile. These are both interesting kits but time consuming, so I'll have to see how I go. RPG wise, there will be more of what has been a staple for the channel, Fantasy Flight Games Star Wars RPG. There are still a few books that have not been reviewed that I intend to get to, and we are working on recording a game or two. While all the Star Wars RPs have been good, FFG's is the best for how I like to run games, and the art is amazing. Another from FFG is Legends of the Five Rings, originally written by John Wick and released by AEG. It has since found a home with FFG. They have redone the card game and the RPG. This game is heavily based on samurai in a fantasy setting with a few other ideas thrown in. It's a beautiful game with amazing art and some really clever concepts that can lead to some brilliant RP moments. I was really looking forward to this game as I have been a fan of Japanese samurai cinema dating back to when I was a kid. The Lone Wolf and Cub movies and the black and white TV series called The Samurai, which had Shintaro and his ninja companion. It was great fun. One of my favourite games to come out in the last couple of years, and one which took me by surprise, is the Star Trek game from Ophidius. I have played all the Star Trek games at some point, and overall I was never really that impressed with them. To be fair, Trek is a difficult one to do. By its nature, it is in some ways the purest of RPGs. It relies front and centre on RP as its fuel. Without it, the game does not work. This is different to how a lot of RPGs are now played, which tend to be more about character builds, counting hexes and spell templates. Some are almost mini war games with a light RP element. I have been very impressed by the quality and thought that has gone into the Star Trek RPG. While it is a great deal of work for the GM, it has also been the most rewarding game I have done in 2019. One game I was excited for, but has met with mixed reactions since we have started playing it, is Starfinder. A high fantasy setting moved into the sci-fi realm sounded great, and in many ways it is. The art and setting visuals are amazing and do a great job for pulling you in, but there is some tone issues that we have found in play. The books have been a bit more expensive, and the Starfinder adventure paths are a smaller page count than their fantasy ones and cost the same. But I will review the books I have. It is a setting I really do want to love. Another of my childhood favourites is Doctor Who, and the team at Cubicle 7 have done an excellent job with the RPG. It has the right feel, the rules are elegantly simple, and the amount of lore in each book is great. I have found each book to be an enjoyable read outside of just the game content, and that is not always easy to do with an RPG book. There will be a review of the third Doctor sourcebook and the Paternoster Investigations Guide. So there it is, some of the stuff I am hoping to get done this year. So if you enjoy nerdy stuff, then by all means, please come along for the ride.